Hi, Jackie. We're going to turn things over to you.
Okay, Rob will introduce. Rob, you there?
Yes, good evening, and
Okay.
thank you again. Good evening, everybody. Thank you again for joining us today on our Leadership Development Webinar Series track. My name is Rob Rios. I'm Leadership Development Coordinator, and I'd like to introduce Jackie Wilson, who is our New York State Leadership Training Specialist, also previously served as our Bylaws Coordinator, New York State PTA, and she is also the Empire State President. Today's webinar will discuss the facts about the region and the region board, who's on the region board, some of the work the board does itself, and why people and folks should consider serving on the region board. It's a pleasure. Thank you again for joining us this evening on a very nice day in New York. So I'll turn it over to you, Jackie.
Okay, thank you, Rob. This evening, our presenters are all parts of the field team. Leader of the field team is Patricia Frazier, our treasurer, who is a designated officer for the field team. We have Joan Wabnick, who currently serves as a field support coordinator on the board of directors and previously served on the Suffolk Region Board as chairman and on the executive committee and as a past Suffolk Region director. Lori Fontana, currently serving as the Suffolk Region director and previously as an officer and chairman on the region board. And she's also served as a field support coordinator and marketing specialist on the New York State Board of Directors. And Nicole Peretta, member of the Leatherstocking Region Board, serving in many positions, including officer, and currently serving as the Leatherstocking Region Board Director. So we appreciate their expertise this evening, and I'll turn it over to them for the presentation. Any questions you have, please use the chat box, and we'll get to the questions once the presentation is finished. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Go to slide, next slide. Next slide. Okay. So first, we're talking about the region board tonight. So the New York State PTA divides New York State into 12 regions. The region director is appointed by the New York State PTA Exec Committee and is a member of the New York State PTA governance team. The region is composed of councils and units in a designated geographic area. The region board consists of elected region officers, region chairs, assistant directors to assist with units and councils. Membership is represented by voting delegates representing the member units and councils to the annual meeting, sometimes referred to as Spring Conference. So at the annual meeting, sometimes again called Spring Conference, the membership in the region is represented. Each unit and council is permitted a certain number of voting delegates. The quorum is stated in the region bylaws. And so, for example, the number of members representing a certain number of units, councils are represented by president and alternate. At this meeting, the election of officers and any changes to bylaws, election of the general members of the nominating committee. Next slide. Region board. So regions are divisions of New York State organized to provide the service to units and councils within their geographic area. Region boards are its administrators. The region director voices the interests of the unit and councils within the region and shares information with the units and councils from the state PTA. So the region PTA has a number of responsibilities. They interpret national and New York State policies, procedures and programs. They provide leadership and training through conferences. I'm sure everyone gets a number of emails from their region saying that there's training opportunities, whether it be within the region itself or even within New York State. There are certain awards given out and programs that all of our units and councils can take advantage of within their region. Again, they provide the leadership. They organize new charters of units and councils in areas that do not already have a unit or a council. And of course, they are always there to give advisory and supportive services. If you have an issue going on in your council, you would call someone, probably would start with the region director And then the region director could divert it to an assistant director or an associate director, and we are there to help you. Everyone on the region is there to assist a unit and council in being as successful as possible. Next slide. And this is a map of and how the New York State PTA is divided. Now, some of the areas look larger than others, but may have less PTAs because they may have less school districts in that particular area. I am from Suffolk, down on Long Island, which we have Nassau, Suffolk. Nassau, Suffolk, and Westchester, East Putnam are three larger regions. And we have the other regions throughout the state, again, have larger areas, but may have less units. Next slide. And I'm going to turn it over.
Thanks, Joan.
Nicole.
So all of our boards at the region level have a whole bunch of positions on them. I'm going to go through some of them, and I'll give you just some of my general experience with it. So the first role that we're going to talk about are assistant or associate directors. In Leatherstocking, I have 1 associate director and 4 assistant directors. Some of the other regions are larger than mine and have multiples of both of these positions. They are both extremely valuable, and they are both assigned the task of maintaining contact with units and councils within a region. That kind of sounds very broad and vague, but ultimately, at least in my region, and I believe in others, we want to make sure that we're utilizing these positions as kind of a liaison between New York State PTA as a whole and your local PTA. We field questions about all kinds of things with these 2 roles, and it's incredibly valuable to maintain that link so that people feel supported in their local PTAs. In addition to these 2 roles, most region boards have chairs that are appointed to perform specific tasks or focus on issues such as health and welfare, arts, family engagement, reading, environment, education, and special education. I will tell you that in my region, I have a education and advocacy. We've gone through several iterations of that title, please forgive me, but she's education and advocacy, and she hosts our winter conference for us. She's incredibly valuable. And we also have chairs for things like reflections, family engagement, things like that, so that they can take on those specific tasks. So again, the local units can have training opportunities to engage with us, and opportunities to learn the information that we learned from New York State PTA. Chairs also serve as a resource for people, and they really should be knowledgeable in the area with which they are assigned. Region PTA boards should be composed of experienced volunteers who were once unit and council leaders and understand PTA and the needs of today's volunteers. I can't stress that enough. We really want to make sure that you've had some local experience so that when you move up to the region, you can have more broad knowledge to share with different units who may look a little bit different than your home unit. Can I have the next slide, please? So the responsibilities of a region board member. We really want to make sure that you accept this position only if you're able to devote, sufficient time. Not everything is super involved, but again, if you accept a position, we want to make sure that it's done and done correctly. Please know and adhere to the PTA philosophy, principles, and policies. We want to make sure that we are acting and speaking and writing and communicating in such a fashion that it adheres to our PTA philosophy. Please meet your deadlines. We have deadlines at New York State PTA with regards to our awards or reflections or other programs that we do, and we can't meet those deadlines if our chairs or our associate or assistant directors are not meeting their deadlines. So please stick to those. We don't put those in arbitrarily. We do them so that we can have successful programming and awards for our local units. Please take initiative and responsibility. And what that means is that when you are on a region board, if you notice something is not working, or it, you would like a different process, please bring that up to your region director. We really like ingenuity and new ideas. And we like when people take responsibility for their own work. Please keep records and notes concerning the work that you do, not because we're nosy, but because we really like sustainability. And we want to make sure that we can replicate what you do with the person that holds your chair next. And fiduciary responsibility, I know this is near and dear to our co-host Patty's heart. We really want to make sure that we are acting in the best interest of our region at all times, especially with our finances. Patty, can I have the next slide, please? So this is the kind of stuff that I find really, really cool. You get to attend and assist at region events. I will tell you that I just had my very first in-person spring conference where I was in charge of it, and I am here for it. I was so excited that I got to bang that gavel, and I hope that all of you get to experience that in the future. It is very, very cool to be able to do that. I love assisting at winter conference, and I was able to do that for a number of years as well. You get to present workshops just like this one, just at the region level, and you get to do trainings for unit and council members. So you get to share your knowledge that you've learned through the local unit and through your work on the region board with everybody else. And it's incredibly valuable because you've gotten that knowledge through doing the work. So you know exactly what's going on and you can share it so that other people may not have the pitfalls that you've had. You get to write articles if your region has a region newsletter or a website. You get to maintain a current list of contacts, which, let me tell you, is super, super helpful. If you are a person that does presentations or has, you invite people to talk to you, you can share those contacts so that you can have a presentation like that again. And then you get to attend New York State PTA and National PTA events, which are awesome. I highly, highly encourage everybody to attend as many New York State PTA events as they can, and national as your budget and your schedule allow. Patty, thank you.
Hi, everyone. So the skills that are important to serving on a region board, the statement is we is more important than me. So a region cannot function unless it functions as a team. One individual cannot run a region. So working as a team is essential in serving on a board. Your willingness to learn. So when you start out on the board, if you're not really comfortable with doing workshops, be willing and open to learn, to possibly want to broaden your skills. The ability to effectively communicate. So we as region members sometimes are called in to mediate situations in units. So it's essential that we be able to effectively communicate in a way that does not necessarily get the unit defensive. So sometimes, or an individual defensive. So it's a skill that we teach, and it's a life skill that you probably have if you work in a business. And we love to share knowledge. So I am always willing to learn anything. I always take as many trainings as I can possibly take, because there's always something new. Even if you took it before, there's always one piece of knowledge that you're going to walk away from. And you want to be willing to share your knowledge. So that's essential in working on the board, is that it's a collaborative group where we work as a team and we share and we're willing to learn. Could I have the next slide, Patty? So the most important thing when you're on a region board is that you have to reply to emails in a timely fashion. That doesn't mean that you have to not take care of your family, and if you have an emergency that you need to stay up all night and answer your emails. But we ask you to respond in a timely fashion because it may not seem important to us, but to the person who is emailing you, it's very important. And sometimes answers need to be done in a timely manner. So we ask that you respond to emails within 24 hours. If you can't, then you need to respond to someone else on the board who can then maybe respond, but that's a part of the communication of working as a team. So you need to alert your associate director or a region director of a potential problem. So if you're an assistant director and you're in charge of a school district or multiple school districts like ours are, if there's an issue, then that issue is brought back to the region director, who then brings it to the board, and we discuss how the best way to handle the particular situation is. We always, when giving answers, refer to the section in the resource guide. Our job is to educate. So it's always very important that we not just spit out answers, but we actually tell them where to find the answers. Because a lot of times people want to know, well, where is it in writing? So that's why we reference it to the resource guide. Patty? So connections. Our job is to build relationships with the units and councils in our area, because when there's an issue and we want to come together as a state, you know, region is a part of distributing that information. So if a unit feels comfortable coming to region with problems, then units have less problems. Okay, so that's building that relationship of trust with the units and councils. We always want to share our expertise, share examples of how we figured things out. A lot of us on the region boards have been around for a long time. So we've seen a lot of things and experienced a lot of things in units and councils. So there's sharing those experiences a very, very valuable thing. And we want to always increase our visibility. You know, we need to reach out to our units and councils to let them know that region exists. And that's part of this workshop, is to let you know that region is here and that what our purpose is. So one of the ways we can do that is by using social media. If you're a region and you have Facebook or you have a website, you know, you need to email blast that out to your membership so that they know when you're offering trainings, because most of the regions offer trainings for their units and councils. And that's how we relate and help to support the units. If a unit contacts a region and there is a problem, regions never publicly state that XYZ PTA had an issue with this, because it's embarrassing to sometimes to the units. We will on occasion say we're getting a lot of questions or issues with a topic, but we never refer to people, or we never talk badly about a person. You know, it's a matter of, you know, this is somebody's parent or special adult in their life. So we always need to be conscious of this. And the other thing is, we always constantly stress, please think before you post. So when you're going to post something, and if you're posting something and there's a motion attached to it, please stop, put it in your draft, and come back an hour later and then reread it. Because if you think before you post, a lot of times you can stop a lot of problems from ever happening. And remember that once you post it, it's there and it's never going away and it's never coming down and it's there forever. Patty? Okay, so there was a question on how do we get involved? Well, here is a list of the email addresses for all the region directors and all of the units. And I know that this is the time of the year that all of the regions are filling their region boards with chairs and assistant directors. So now is the time, perfect timing for you to send a letter of interest that you're interested in a position and ask what those positions are. So I know Suffolk will be filling our positions on the 11th, and we would love to have as many people representing as many school districts as we can in Suffolk. So that's our goal. Patty? So a reminder that Summer Leadership Conference is July 16th and the 17th in Albany at the Desmond, which is a very beautiful hotel. It's exciting. The theme this year is I just totally blanked out. Is follow the Yellow Brick Road.
There's no place like PTA.
There's no place like PTA. So a lot of times we dress up in costumes at one dinner and stuff. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun and you would truly enjoy it. Also look at your regions, because a lot of times they're offering trainings too. Especially new officers training. This is like usually the time of the year that everybody does that.
Are there any questions?
So one question is, how do you become a member?
Of a region board or just a member of PTA?
I'm assuming it's the region board. So,
Right.
right.
So I'll take that. I would reach out to your region director. And if there is a slide that lists all the email addresses, you might even know somebody who's on the region board. You might reach out to them and let them know that you're interested. Many of our regions send out an email with help wanted, and you can check off those things that you would be interested in. You know, it's great to work on a region. I went from a council to a region, and I was very, very excited to work with people across the state. So it's really a wonderful experience. So I encourage everyone to look to next step in their PTA career would be your region.
So
Okay, Rob, you want to start with some questions then, additional ones?
Yeah, I had a few questions and then I'll try to tackle some of the ones from the chat. But I wanted to know, so does the region board, is there an executive or are there executive officers on the region board? Well, what is the structure? Is it just the treasurer and the region director and the other roles, or can you talk a little bit about that?
I can answer that. Yes, so there is an exec committee. We do have the region director, which the region director is appointed by the New York State Executive Committee. They appointed every year for a total of 3 years. They're part of the New York State governance team, but we do have elected officers. We have, and each region is different depending on the size of the region. So you have, well, associate directors, which is like a vice president. We do have a treasurer. We have a secretary. Most regions have a corresponding secretary and a secretary. It takes all the minutes of all the meetings and send out notices and things like that. So we do have elected officers, and they usually have terms, and all of that is stated in the region bylaws. So regions must abide by what's in their bylaws, the same as units and council.
Perfect, thank you. That was my second question. So the region bylaws states the amount of associate directors that you would have and the amount of chairs that you would appoint?
That's correct.
Not the chairs, just the associate directors. The
Well-
chairs,
Well, you would elect the associate directors, but the appointment of how many chairs, you might have them listed. You could even have that listed in your procedures as well.
Right.
Most regions, I would, if not all regions, usually have procedures that go beyond the bylaws.
Okay.
Question.
And then-
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob. Finish your.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I was thinking of these as you were going through the presentation and I was just very curious. So the chairs, the appointment of the chairs, typically committees are formed and then the committee would appoint the chair. So how are the chairs appointed at the region level?
I'll take that. So chairs are appointed at a region level by the executive committee. They collaborate, get together, look at all the people who are interested and fill the chair positions. And the chairs, some chairs work singularly, some chairs work with a committee. That really depends on each region's need and how they feel that structure should be.
Thank you.
A couple of questions I had is there a membership fee for joining the region board?
The answer would, okay, Nicole?
You have to be a member of a local unit to be on the region board. So your membership fee would vary with which unit you choose to be your home unit.
And I know you put up the region director listing there. Where will I find that information? Is there a place I can go to find that information?
You can find that in the resource guide and also on the New York State website.
What is the resource guide? That came up, but it wasn't explained, so.
So the resource guide is a second document to the bylaws and unit procedures. The resource guide is handed down by New York State, and they are guidelines so that when you start out in a position, you're not starting out with nothing. It's guidelines of what is required, the history of PTA, it has your fiduciary responsibilities, it has the insurance information. The resource guide has everything that you could possibly want to know and could answer 99% of your questions regarding PTA.
And how do I know how do I contact someone to tell them I'm interested? Just email the region director, ask them what positions are available. How does that work?
Exactly. Exactly that.
Yeah, email us, and honestly, if you could give us a little background too about what you're interested in, because ultimately we really like to put people in positions where they will succeed and be happy. So if you've got, an arts background, maybe we can help you or have you sit with reflections. If you've got a background in bylaws, maybe you could do that committee. Like there's a whole bunch of opportunity at the region level. Just tell us who you are and what you're interested in.
I know in Suffolk, we never turn anyone away, ever. We will find a spot for you.
We'll make one.
I know you mentioned some additional obligations that I would have as part of the region board. Can you review some of those again?
So in my region, some of the officers, some of the chair are required to help out at certain events. So like when we have our president principals dinners, our assistant directors are required to attend because at that time we ask them to go around to the tables of the units that they represent and introduce themselves to put a face to the name. And then like spring conference, we ask, our membership chair to be there, and we ask other chairs that are pertinent to that particular event. If we have a legislative event, we ask the legislative chair or advocacy chair to be present at that. So it really depends on, what position that you hold, but you're always welcome at all of our events, no matter what.
And suppose I'm brand new to the region board. Am I getting any training? What do you do to help prepare me for whatever role that I'm asked to do?
Okay, I can answer that. So regions, once they've contacted everyone and they have a list of their chair people and officers and everything, they would arrange a region board training. And in that training, you'll meet the other members of the board. You'll find out which associate you may be working with. You'll have guidelines. You'll receive a copy of a directory that the region has, a copy of the bylaws. And I just want to stress the fact that you're never alone. We never throw you to the wolves and say, here, this is your job, now do it. We're always there to assist you because we want all our members of our region board to be successful.
Can you give an example of some outreach that the regions do? I know you say that you're helping the units and councils in your region. What are some of the outreach that the regions do to assist the councils and regions? You mentioned workshops, anything else that they assist the regions with, the units with?
So, Nicole, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so we assist with everything. We can assist you with everything, but like in my region, what we do is we do outreach around 990s and filing those. We do outreach around getting memberships and getting region boards filled. Region boards, that too. Positions in the local units filled. We do all kinds of outreach about, different workshops and trainings and just things that we can offer you to help. Is that kind of what you were looking for, Jackie?
Yeah, so Suffolk will do conflict resolutions. We've been called in to deal with that. We've also been called in to audit books because there was an issue with, a past treasurer, or there was concerns about the spending of money. So, we pretty much will do an outreach on anything. I mean, if you're having a special problem in the district, we have no problem setting up a Zoom and coming up with a PowerPoint that relates to that issue. Because if we don't have one, we know some other region has, so those are the type of things that we do to help.
Rob,
was
did
a-
you have anything additional?
Yeah, there was one that says, can I still be an officer in my local PTA and serve on the region board?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. That's a big yes.
The other one, I don't know if the membership fee was already answered, but I think that is based on your bylaws, correct?
Well, you don't pay the regions a membership. You just must be a member of a PTA to qualify to be on the region board. We don't charge you money. Regions don't charge money.
I think who chooses the region director, we said that's based on the letter of interest, and that's chosen by New York State, the president of New York State PTA and the exec committee, and those are appointments. And then, so just a quick note on, the other one is, how often do region boards meet? And what is the time commitment monthly?
That depends on the region. I
It
know,
really does.
yeah, I mean, I know Suffolk meets monthly. We take the month of December off. And we have recently been doing a month off in the summer. It's literally a monthly meeting.
So
We
just to
try
expand
keep
a
them
little
as
bit.
short as possible.
Okay. But there is still, just like in all the bylaws, right? There are still minimum meeting requirements, right? As a board.
So as a region, you have minimum meeting requirements. I don't know of a region who only does the minimum. So
I don't think any.
I honestly don't know what our minimum is because it's always been once a month.
Right.
Right. So
So-
the region, each of the regions is different in how they determine how many board meetings they will have during the year.
Yeah, so Nassau region only holds 6 board meetings. They said 6 board meetings this year.
I think each region has it in their bylaws as far as the number of meetings
Yeah.
they must have, right?
Yes, and yes, they do. I just don't, Jackie, I don't even remember what Suffolk's is. 'cause
I
we
think it's
had it
8.
monthly.
I think it's 8, but I couldn't swear to it. Somebody had their hand raised. Do they want to unmute and ask their question? No? Saw a hand raised before.
Hi, I didn't raise my hand, but I do have a question. 2 questions, actually. One is regarding the conference that's coming up. Is that available to any board member for a local PTA, even if it's not an officer?
It's available to any PTA member, period. You do not have to be an officer to attend state events at all.
Or a region event.
Right. You just have to be a PTA member.
Okay, perfect. And then my question was regarding recently we were trying to find out about the nominations or re-elections of current officers of the board, and our bylaws, and we looked into the state bylaws and national bylaws. So I think the tricky position is a VP. So we were just trying to find out, and then I read the bylaws are actually changing as of April of 2022, where you can actually be voted and hold a position for 3 years as opposed to 2. Did I read that correctly?
No, not in New York State,
Right.
not New York State bylaws. It goes by your individual units bylaws, but never more than 2 years in your individual unit bylaws.
So there are
Okay.
3 mandatory positions in PTA for you to be a unit in good standing. You need a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. A VP is not mandatory, and you don't have to have 2 secretaries. So, you know, the minimum amount that you can have, even if your bylaws state more, is those 3 positions.
But we do get many questions about terms of office, especially now, you know, the last 2 years, things have been a little different. But there's only 2
So I think-
choices. It's only one 2-year term or 2 1-year terms. And those are the only choices we currently have in New York State right now.
Okay, what if, like for VP, like you said, you don't have to have a position, but let's say you do have a VP and there's no one else who is running for the position or was nominated, could that VP via vote be able to stay, to be
No,
voted in to continue? Okay,
Not, you know, not at this time. No, that position would remain a vacancy and you could try and fill it at every meeting as a vacancy. That would remain open. And again, to be a unit in good standing, you don't have to fill a VP position. You just need the 3 positions that Lori stated before.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions out there we have? Anybody else have any additional questions for our panel? Hearing none. I feel like I'm running a meeting. This is our last webinar of the series for 21-22. So obviously we will be again picking this up in September with a new and additional presentations. We appreciate your feedback. And as always, if you have an idea for a topic that you would like to see considered for one of our webinars, you can certainly contact one of your region directors or any one of us on the leadership team. And I'll put my and Rob's information in the chat box so that if you have any ideas, we're always willing to come up with new and different ideas. We thank Patty Frazier's field team, Nicole Peretta, Joan Wobnick, and Lori Fontana for presenting this evening. And Rob, any final comments?
Yeah, again, thank you again for joining and throughout the all these months, right, for joining the different webinar sessions and as we try to put out information out there. I have to reiterate, you know, from the unit council, from the unit to the council level to the region, you know, the amount of expertise, for example, that our region directors have or that have been appointed, and as we can see on the floor, is pretty significant because of all the years they've been in and done PTA. So that is our conduit, you know, through School of Instructions, right, of getting the units and the unit officers trained. So it's very important to make sure you establish that connection with the region directors and also maintain that contact, because they will be your first point of contact for critical questions. And if escalation is needed, then it'll go to New York State PTA. But again, just the amount of resources, you know, the wealth of knowledge that they have and the resources is always incredible. And we tend to undervalue them, but they're a great asset and within the structure of PTA. So thank you again all for joining, and thank you again to our panelists and Jackie.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. Thanks
Thank
again.
you.
Night.